When your dog suddenly starts pressing their nose against your stomach or refuses to leave your side on the day you wake up feeling slightly off, most owners assume it is affection. It is not. Something inside you has shifted, and your dog noticed it before your body sent you a single conscious warning signal, long before a doctor would have any reason to order a test. This is not because you are missing some obvious sign of illness. Most of these changes are invisible, happening at the cellular level, in your breath, in your sebum, in molecules so small no human nose can register them, but your dog can. Not because they love you more than the next dog, because their olfactory system was built for a world humans cannot perceive, and what they detect is not always what you want to know. Stay until number 5, because the 5th thing, the one peer-reviewed laboratories have only confirmed in the last 2 years, is the one most owners never realize their dog has been alerting them to for years. Quiet, patient, waiting for someone to listen. 1. A tumor long before the scan. Your dog sniffs a freckle on your arm or paws at one specific spot on your chest, and then they keep doing it. Day after day, always the same spot, always with the same focused, almost concerned attention. Most owners brush this off as quirky behavior, a scratch they want, a familiar smell, maybe a leftover crumb. The thought that a dog could be reacting to something more serious, something cellular, feels almost like a story you tell to make pets seem mystical. But the research is not mystical, it is measurable. At the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine, trained canines at the Penn Vet Working Dog Center have learned to identify hemangiosarcoma, an aggressive blood cancer in dogs and humans, by scent alone, with accuracy rates that researchers describe as remarkable. In separate work led by researchers at BioScentDx and published in the journal FASAB in 2019, 3 trained beagles correctly identified blood samples from people with lung cancer roughly 97% of the time. A systematic review published in the American Journal of Veterinary Research in 2024 concluded that dogs have demonstrated reproducible scent detection across lung, breast, prostate, ovarian, and melanoma cancers, sometimes from breath, sometimes from urine, sometimes from a single skin lesion. The mechanism is biology, not magic. Tumors release volatile organic compounds, tiny molecules that diffuse through your bloodstream and exit through your breath, your skin, and your sweat. Your dog has approximately 300 million olfactory receptors. You have around 6 million. The difference is not a sharper sense of smell. It is an entirely different way of perceiving the world. There are anecdotal accounts that go back decades. A woman in The Lancet from 1989 whose border collie kept sniffing a mole on her thigh until she had it checked and learned it was an early-stage melanoma. A man whose terrier obsessively licked one specific spot on his ear. A husband whose retriever began burying her nose against his abdomen night after night. 2 full years before a routine scan revealed a slow-growing tumor. These stories are the reason scientists began testing dogs in laboratory conditions in the first place. The dogs were already trying to tell us. We simply did not have the vocabulary to listen. They were running an early warning system in our living rooms, and we were calling it weird behavior. So when your dog pushes their nose into the same spot, over and over, what looks like a quirk may be something far more profound. It is not a diagnosis, it is not a guarantee, but it is a signal worth noticing. A small, soft, persistent invitation to pay attention to a body you spend every day inhabiting, but rarely truly listening to. The body keeps quiet records, the dog keeps reading them. The only question is whether you, the third party in this conversation, are willing to overhear. 2. The drop in your blood you haven't felt yet. Your dog stares at you, whines softly, will not settle, and you have no idea why. Owners read this as anxiety, a passing mood. Maybe they need to go outside. Maybe a thunderstorm is rolling in 3 towns over. The last thing most people consider is that the dog is reacting to the chemistry of their own body, to something happening inside the bloodstream that has not yet reached awareness. Dr. Nicola Rooney, an associate professor at the University of Bristol, has published some of the strongest evidence yet on what are called diabetic alert dogs. In a longitudinal study published in PLOS One following 17 patients with type 1 diabetes, Rooney and her colleagues found that trained dogs accurately detected episodes of both low blood sugar, hypoglycemia, and high blood sugar, Hyperglycemia. Some dogs alerted up to 15 minutes before a continuous glucose monitor recorded an out-of-range reading. Owners reported fewer paramedic calls, fewer unconscious episodes, and meaningful increases in independence. Subsequent owner-independent research published in Frontiers in Veterinary Science replicated the core finding using objective behavior analysis, removing any possibility of subtle owner cueing. What the dogs are detecting is the chemistry of metabolic distress. As blood glucose drops or spikes, the body shifts the volatile compounds it exhales. Isoprene levels change. Acetone rises. A constellation of subtle scent markers shift in ways your conscious mind will not register for several minutes. Long enough, in the worst cases, for someone in a hypoglycemic crash to lose coordination, lose memory, or lose consciousness entirely. There is something almost unsettling about the precision of it. The dog is not predicting. The dog is reading present tense chemistry that your own brain has, not yet caught up to. The kitchen looks the same. The clock has not moved. The coffee in your cup is still warm, but your body is already speaking, and the only listener in the room is on 4 legs. The signal has been sent. The receiver has caught it. The doctor, the hospital, the lab, they are all still hours behind a quiet dog at your knee. This is why a dog that becomes uncharacteristically focused on you, circling, nudging, refusing distraction, should not be dismissed as needy. Sometimes the most loving thing a dog can do is interrupt. Sometimes the demand for your attention is a quiet sentence in a language you were never taught to read. And if this is changing how you see your dog right now, go ahead and subscribe. Every video on this channel is built around what the science actually says, not what we assume. 3. The storm that hasn't reached your brain yet. Your dog freezes, looks at you strangely, lies across your chest, and refuses to move. For someone living with epilepsy, this exact sequence can be the first warning that a seizure is on the way. For someone who has never been told they have a seizure disorder, it is often dismissed entirely. Cute, but odd. A moment of clinginess, nothing to think about, but there is something to think about. Researchers from the universities of Rennes and Caen, in a study led by Dr. Amélie Catala, and published in Nature Scientific Reports in 2019, demonstrated that trained dogs could reliably distinguish sweat samples taken from people during epileptic seizures from baseline samples of the same person. The accuracy rate was striking, far above chance, and provided the first hard evidence that seizures produce a specific olfactory signature. A separate scoping review of dog alerting behavior published in PLOS 1 the year before by Dr. Marion Grant and colleagues found alert windows ranging from 10 seconds to over 5 hours before seizure onset with owner-reported accuracy between 70 and 85% across multiple independent samples. Even untrained pet dogs sometimes display these alerts spontaneously. Research published in Frontiers in Veterinary Science found that a significant proportion of household dogs living with epileptic owners began to display anticipatory behavior without any formal training. Changes in posture, increased proximity, intense eye contact, sometimes a soft, persistent whine that sounded almost like a question. The mechanism, again, appears to be scent. Specific volatile organic compounds, exhaled in trace amounts during the metabolic shifts that precede a seizure, leave a signature your dog can read. You cannot. What this means in practical terms is profound. A neurological event that may not surface in your awareness for minutes, sometimes for hours, has already entered your dog's awareness. Your body is broadcasting on a frequency you cannot receive. Your dog is receiving it perfectly. The doctor's office is still hours away. The lab is still days away. But the answer is already in the room with you, breathing softly at your feet, hoping you will notice. For some families, this has become a literal lifesaver. Parents of children with epilepsy describe a dog that wakes them at 3 in the morning before the first seizure begins. Spouses describe a dog that refuses to leave the room moments before everything changes. The data, the anecdotes, and the lived reality all point in the same direction. The signal is real. The signal is reliable enough to matter. And in many homes, the dog has quietly become a member of the medical team. 4. The shape of your stress. Your dog suddenly stops chewing the toy and walks over, rests their chin on your knee, does not move for a long time. You think you are hiding it well. You think the deep breath, The calm voice, the carefully maintained face is doing its job. And to any human in the room, it probably is. But the body has another voice, one that leaks through your pores in chemistry, not in words. In 2022, researchers at Queen's University Belfast, led by Clara Wilson, published a study in PLOS, one that produced one of the most striking results in modern canine olfaction science. They collected sweat and breath samples from 36 people before and after a difficult arithmetic task that reliably elevated heart rate, blood pressure, and self-reported stress. 4 pet dogs, Trio, Fingal, Soot, and Winnie, were then asked to identify the stressed sample in a scent lineup. They did so with an accuracy of 93.75%, just from smelling sweat and breath, without seeing the human, without hearing the tone of voice, without any visual cue at all. Even when the humans were strangers the dogs had never met before. A follow-up study from the University of Bristol, published in 2024, went a step further. It found that dogs presented with the odor of a stressed stranger began to behave more cautiously, making decisions in unfamiliar situations as if to protect themselves. The smell of a stranger's stress was enough to change the dog's behavior in real time. The chemistry of another person's anxiety was being absorbed into the dog's body and rerouted into protective action. This means something specific. When your dog walks across the room on a bad day and quietly sits down at your feet, they are not guessing. They are not picking up a vague vibe. They are inhaling a measurable chemical record of your nervous system and choosing to come closer to it, choosing to sit inside the storm with you instead of moving away. Your stress has a smell, and the creature in your home is reading it like a weather report, updating it minute by minute, adjusting their position, adjusting their breathing, doing the only thing they know how to do with that information, which is to stay. Which is, in its own quiet way, the most remarkable kind of love a nonverbal species can offer, a love that smells the storm coming and walks toward it anyway. 5. A diagnosis years before the first tremor. The 5th thing your dog knows about your health is the one that takes a moment to absorb, because what the most recent research suggests is that your dog can detect certain neurological diseases, slow-developing, invisible, terrifying diseases, years before any doctor would have a reason to test for them. In July of 2025, researchers from the Universities of Bristol and Manchester, in collaboration with the charity Medical Detection Dogs, published a landmark study in the Journal of Parkinson's Disease. The team, led by Dr. Nicola Rooney with key researchers including Dr. Thilo Kunath at the University of Edinburgh and Professor Perdita Barron at the University of Manchester, trained 2 dogs, a golden retriever named Bumper and a black Labrador named Peanut, to detect the odor of Parkinson's disease on skin swabs. In a double-blind trial, the dogs identified swabs from patients with Parkinson's with up to 80% sensitivity and 98% specificity, even when other health conditions were present. Even when the patients themselves had not yet been formally diagnosed. The story behind this research is just as extraordinary. It began with a Scottish nurse named Joy Milne, who noticed a distinctive musky odor on her husband long before he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. Years later, she smelled the same odor on strangers in a support group, and was always right. Working with researchers at the University of Manchester, Joy's nose led scientists to identify more than 500 organic compounds that appear in elevated levels in the sebum of Parkinson's patients. Compounds that change long before any clinical symptom appears, long before the first tremor, long before the patient themselves senses anything is wrong. What this means, very practically, is this. The dog who lifts their head when you walk into the room, who sniffs your hairline with quiet attention, who lingers a beat longer than they used to, that dog may be reading a chapter of your biography that has not yet been written in your medical chart. Not as a parlor trick, as a fact confirmed in peer-reviewed research by trained scientists in the year 2025. And it does not stop with Parkinson's. There is ongoing peer-reviewed research suggesting dogs can detect early markers of Alzheimer's, certain thyroid conditions, and even early-stage infectious illness, including during the pandemic, COVID-19, with sensitivities exceeding 90% across multiple large studies summarized in the Journal of Osteopathic Medicine in 2023. Every year, the list of conditions a dog can detect grows longer. Every year, the gap between what your dog knows and what your doctor knows narrows. And every year, more researchers begin to suspect that the most sensitive diagnostic tool in modern medicine may not be made of metal or silicon. It may be made of fur and patience. This is the thing most owners miss. Your dog is not just a pet living in your house. Your dog is a sensor, a soft, breathing, infinitely attentive instrument measuring you every single moment they are with you. The doctor will ask questions, the lab will run tests, but the creature pressed against your leg has already drawn a conclusion. Quietly, confidently, without ever needing the result of a single scan. And the most humbling part of all of this is what it implies about the relationship itself. The dog is not loyal to a label or a job. The dog is loyal to a chemistry, a scent profile, a scent that is yours and only yours, and that changes the moment something inside you changes. Which means the dog is not just observing you. The dog is reading you in real time, every day, more accurately than anyone in your life, including the version of you that owns the body in question. Every video on this channel begins the same way, with a question most dog owners have never stopped to ask. And then we go looking for the real answer, not the simplified version, not the comfortable assumption, the actual science. If anything in this video changed how you think about the small, strange behaviors of your dog, leave a comment telling us which of the 5 surprised you most. Hit the like button so the algorithm shows this to other dog owners who need to know it. And if you have not already, subscribe, because every behavior your dog displays carries a meaning, and most owners spend a lifetime missing it. Your dog is not magical. Your dog is a measurement, and what they are measuring every day in silence without ever asking for credit is you.